to this latest edition of the Cranky Curmudgeon's Corner. My name is Paul Thomas. There is an uneasy belief circulating among citizens who are paying attention that if Trump's party keeps control of Congress after this November's midterm, the 250-year-old experiment previously known as the United States of America will have failed and be finished. That group of citizens fall under a number of camps, among them the MAGA faithful who celebrate the demise of democracy and the deification of their God. There's another camp of the hopeless and powerless who are too depressed to do anything about it. And there are those who won't go down without a fight. Joining me today is a member of that latter camp who decided that the best way to exercise his patriotic duty is to get in the fight to save democracy. Ray Bilger, welcome to the corner.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here.
Okay. Full disclosure, you are the official Democratic candidate for the 15th Congressional District in Pennsylvania, a seat currently held by Republican Glenn Thompson. We'll talk about him more later, but first I want to ask you, besides the person of Donald Trump, what do you believe to be the greatest challenge facing our nation at this moment?
That's one of those things that changes so often. What we dealt with 2 days ago is now old news, and we have an even more bigger danger today. And I think the biggest danger that we have to face today is the threat from all of our enemies, because we have destroyed our global alliances so well, and we have depleted a lot of our weapon stockpiles in the war in Iran. And now we are taking our very last aircraft carrier out of the Pacific, which leaves us with 0 aircraft carriers in the Pacific, and we're moving that over to the Middle East, while cozying up to North Korea, a nation that is sending 50,000 troops to fight on the side of Vladimir Putin in Ukraine. So I think that what we face right now is our threats from a variety of sources. We have Putin on our doorstep in NATO and Europe, and we have now North Korea and China on the other side. So we're kind of we're between a rock and a hard place right now.
So you think it's international? The biggest threat is coming from outside our borders?
I think the biggest threat is international because of the damage that's been done here internally to our country. We're powerless. We have a Congress that is simply spineless, simply refuses to hold the president accountable, and we've destroyed all of our alliances, and we have a completely incompetent person in charge of the Department of Defense. So, and really, if you want to go down the list, you can pretty much pick almost any head of any agency or any department in our government right now, and they fit right into that same category. So we are incredibly weak right now, and we also have allowed our enemies to be strong, and that's by our own doing.
So it's domestic ineffectiveness that's allowing this threat to nurture. Okay. Since George Washington's presidency ended, we have been stuck in a two-party political system. First, there was the Federalists versus the Democrat-Republicans, who quickly discarded the Republican part of the label when the Whigs replaced the Federalists. By 1856, the two parties were the Democrats versus the Republicans, who replaced the Whigs. The names have stayed the same since then, but the parties underwent a drastic ideological sea change in 1964, when Lyndon Johnson took the Democratic Party away from the Jim Crow Dixiecrats, whom the Republicans welcomed into their fold with open arms. How do you ascertain the good, if you can, and the bad, which should be much easier, of each party's contribution to today's political climate and our American society in general? The two-party system, the current parties we have, Democrat, Republican, how are they working out?
Well, let's just start off with the parties. I mean, you can go back all the way to our founding, and you can find the evolution of both the parties there. And I think you pretty much hit the high points of it right there. The Democratic Party in let's just say we'll start with the civil rights here, actually, Democratic Party has given us a lot of really good social programs. It's given us the back during the Depression, we had the Civilian Conservation Corps, which was very effective. Certainly here in Pennsylvania, we had the second highest number of Civilian Conservation Corps camps in the country, next to California.
My grandfather was actually a foreman in one of those civilian conservation corps. He built a road between Sweetown and Hastings. Just never mind.
Yeah, I mean, you can't go 10 miles here without running into some sort of project that was undertaken by a Civilian Conservation Corps. We wouldn't have most of the state parks that we have around here, and we got quite a few, without the Civilian Conservation Corps. But we had things like that. And then whenever civil rights rolled along, it was the Democratic Party who was really a supporter of the civil rights, and a lot of the other struggles that we had, because the civil rights struggle was a very long struggle. So all those struggles that we had up until then, the Democratic Party also supported labor unions, which gave us collective bargaining, which helped out a lot of workers. So basically, we were the friend of the working class. Now, fast forward to today. Probably over the past 20, 30 years, the Democratic Party has forgotten or somehow lost that connection to the working class. And so right now, I would say the Democratic Party, we're starting to get together, but you can still see some of the problems that we have with the Social Democrats coming up and winning a lot of elections, and a lot of, let's say, non-corporate Democrats winning their races. So the party is being forced right now to deal with that, come to terms with it, and it's kind of having growing pains in doing so. You see some very effective campaigns being run in, like, for example, Mamdani's campaign in New York, where he obviously garnered a lot of support there. And I think what the Democratic Party needs to learn from that is they need to adapt. And I think that's why we have really kind of gotten off the track here, is because we refuse to evolve. We don't evolve, you die. But like I said, I see it starting to come together, though. So that's one of the good things, at least out of the bad part of that. The bad part, of course, is, look at what we've been doing for the past. I'll just look at Pennsylvania. Look at PA 15. Here's a perfect example of how the Democratic Party does not properly approach elections. They look at PA 15, for example, and they say R plus 19, and they say, well, it's unwinnable. So they're not going to put any effort into that. They're not going to put any money into that. Well, this district has been Republican for 50 years. Well, it's going to continue to be Republican for 50 more years if you don't turn attention to it. What you should do is the approach that we're taking is kind of a military approach. You look at this and say, well, these are the areas where I really need to really put my emphasis, because they've been Republican for a long time, and we need to find out why, and we need to change that. So we need to get the good candidates in here. And what we need to do is we need to do like a lot of other people are doing. We actually need to start growing our candidates, because that's one of the things that we need to do. Start not only the candidates, but also the staff. You grow the candidates, you grow the staff, and when they grow together, you're going to have a good, strong basis for a campaign. You're going to be able to build your base that way as well. You have a lot longer to build up name recognition, and so by the time the election comes along, these people are raring to go, and they're well known. So it makes your job a lot easier, and we also get better candidates that way, better staff that way. Now, let's look on the Republican side of the house. The Republicans have given us some good things. We had Abe Lincoln, we had Teddy Roosevelt, and who was the most recent one that we had that was really good? I'm trying to think.
Eisenhower.
Eisenhower. There you go. Eisenhower. Yeah. Somebody told me the other day that I was more like an Eisenhower Republican than a Democrat, and I said, well, actually, that is pretty much the definition of a Democrat. Yeah, that's pretty much a definition of a Democrat right now in this environment. So
Well,
we've
I
got
heard recently. I heard recently that there was that they looked at the Republican platform from 1952 and 1956, which was when Ike won. It was really like what these Democratic Socialists are pushing now. It was pretty
yeah,
much
exactly.
ahead of that. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, they have given us some good things, um, but then you look now at what the Republicans have given us, and it's given us Donald Trump and the MAGA movement. That's the most, as someone who spent 35 years in intelligence, as a combat veteran, I can very honestly and truthfully say that the MAGA movement and Donald Trump that's the biggest threat to our nation that we've faced in a very long time. So probably since the Civil War. And this needs to stop. We need to do something to stop this movement because it is not America first. It is Donald Trump and the oligarchs first. And as you can see, all you have to do is look at who he's making friends with. Kim Jong Un's his good buddy. Nobody is Kim Jong Un's good buddy. Not even Xi. Not even Xi in China. So and Putin certainly isn't. But we're cozying up to these folks. That's all you have to do is look at the company they keep and say, you know what? That's not our country. That's not America. That has never been what America has been about.
Hey, before I let you go to the next question, I want to do a little follow up. You mentioned like the Civilian Conservation Corps, a lot of these other programs, the New Deal programs, the union movement, and all that. And you also mentioned about Mendami and the Democratic. I don't know if Democratic Socialists have just become a pejorative term that they're using as a cudgel. Do you see a connection between those two movements, between the movement today and what occurred during the New Deal? Do you see any like philosophical connection or historical connection, or how would you describe
Yeah,
that?
I think philosophically, I think there's a lot to unpack there. I think there's a lot in common. But one of the things that I think that we fail to really understand is that this movement. You look at where the movement has taken place. This is not a one size fits all movement, and nor is the Democratic Party or the Republican Party for that matter. It's not a one size fits all movement. You've got all kinds of variations within that, and you have to adjust to those variations. Now, New York City, and typically the Social Democrats are doing really well in urban areas and places like New York and Chicago, and they really put in a good showing in Wisconsin, which is kind of it's a little bit it's kind of the same thing because they did really well in the large population centers.
Did they do poorly in rural areas in Wisconsin?
They didn't do as well. They didn't do as well.
Okay.
But you have to look at that from. I mean, when you look at it from that context and realize, you know what, that's what we have to really hone in on because just like I look at my district, if I were to focus only on this area here in Center County around State College and Penn State University, I would miss out on the other 17 counties because every single county, they're all rural and they all have different flavors. They're different things that different concerns in each area, different types of industry in each area. So you have to really tailor your approach to the area that you're talking about. So it's a little more complex than just saying, yeah, you want to be a Democrat and here are our platform values.
Yeah. So, for instance, up in Forest County, it seems like the main industry up there is tourism and the prison.
Right. Yeah, and that's pretty much what when you get north of here, that's pretty much what you got. Everything is really outdoors, outdoor tourism. There are a few small industries up there, but that's mostly it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Every time I get a chance to publish my definition of leadership, I go for it. Here's what I believe leadership is: the ability to understand the mission of the group, along with the willingness to do whatever it takes to overcome obstacles preventing the group's accomplishment of the mission. Your mission, obviously, is to unseat Glenn Thompson and become the congressman representing the 15th district. So, how does what I just said fit into your definition of leadership?
I think you hit it pretty good. I think you hit most of the high points there. The other thing that I would add in there is integrity. You have to have integrity in there as well. You do all those things, but with integrity. You need to be. You need to lead by example. You need to, and again, that's kind of playing into the leadership thing, but if you have to have integrity. Otherwise, doing all those other things without it, it falls apart. Because when a person sees that you really mean what you say, you walk the walk, then that is when people are going to follow you. And those are the types of people that I've always looked up to, and I've tried to emulate.
What is your explanation of how America got into the war against Iran? And do you have any ideas on how that situation gets resolved?
We got involved in this war. I would love to say that I know exactly how we got involved in this war, but I can only sit back and, based on my analysis of the situation, what I know from my intelligence background. My last job, by the way, before I left the agency, was a senior Iran analyst. So, very nice question. Nice setup there.
So, based on that, you have some kind of ideas.
I don't know for sure why we got into this, but I can tell you one thing for absolute sure. Every single reason that this administration has given us for this war, including everything that Netanyahu has said about the reasons for going into this war, completely and total nonsense. 100%. Across the board, none of that is true. Ever since Netanyahu has been a 40-year-old member of the Knesset, he's been saying exactly the same thing. The exact same thing he told Donald Trump. Iran is 2 weeks away from having a nuclear weapon. Bunch of nonsense. It's absolute nonsense.
I'll tell you why I think we got into the war. This is just my speculation. I obviously don't have your background. I think Trump thought it was going to be fun, that he and Netanyahu were going to get together and, oh, boy, we're going to have a good time here. Check this out. Just like they did the previous June when they obliterated the mountain. But that's my view.
I think that there are probably more things at play there. And maybe, and that may very well just be it. I don't know. He seems to be pretty unhinged.
Yeah.
But I see several other parallels there and several other possibilities. Number one, both Trump and Netanyahu are in danger of going to jail after their terms are over. Netanyahu was already on the list before he won. He was going to go to jail, I believe it was for sexual assault or something like that. So, but he won the election, and now he's saved from that. Now he's got an International Criminal Court warrant out for his arrest. So that's hanging over his head. Trump, on the other hand, also has a lot of criminal activities that he's going to have to answer for. And he's already said pretty much if they lose the election in the primary, or they lose the midterms, that he's going to be impeached. And I don't doubt it for a second. So they both have that in common. Another thing is Gaza. You look at Gaza, and Israeli intelligence is a lot better than what they've shown. They're far more capable of surgical strikes than what they did in Gaza. Gaza was a bulldozer and a sledgehammer approach. They basically raised that Gaza, and
but wasn't that the point? Wasn't that the point?
Yeah, and I think that was the point. But and now he and Trump are thinking about building this beautiful golden resort community there. And you have a problem, though. You have Houthis firing missiles from you have Hezbollah firing missiles from southern Lebanon, which is why they're in southern Lebanon right now. And you have Iranians firing missiles too from Iran. So I think there was a little bit there may very well have been that consideration too. Well, we want to keep our beach properties safe and our condos safe, so we need to take out the missile threat. So that's kind of far-fetched, but with the way Trump has been acting, you can't really discount that theory.
You kind of segued me into the next question, which was about Gaza and Ukraine. So we'll just talk about Ukraine.
Okay.
Can you speak how you feel about America's position about Ukraine?
Even under Biden, I felt like we weren't doing enough. We were giving them enough to hold their own, and that was it. We weren't in it to win it. And it's personal to me, and I'll just be right up front about this. I know I'm biased because I have family in Poland, in southeast Poland. My wife's family is there. That's where we met when I was studying in Lublin, which is like 130 kilometers from the border with Ukraine. Some of the drones and things that Russia sent into Poland actually landed near there. There was an attack on a rail line near there, a train that I've used many times when I visited. So it's personal for me. So obviously, I am going to be a bit biased about that, and I know that. But I think that we have not done nearly enough to help Ukraine to win this war. I think if we had gone in and just said, okay, well, what do you need? Let's get together with our allies and let's help you out and let's put this to bed now and send Putin packing back across the border. Had we done that in the beginning, we wouldn't be here right now. We would have one less problem to deal with. But one thing I am really happy about is the way that Poland, Germany, France, and a few other countries have stepped up in support of Ukraine. And I'm really proud of the way that they have really increased their drone manufacture and the technology and the anti-drone technology. It's really amazing.
They're tearing up the Amazon part of Moscow.
Yeah,
I
Wildberries.
forget what the name of the company is, but they're tearing it up. Just today.
Don't buy stock in Wildberries.
Hey, when you said that you don't think Biden really did enough, I think that goes all the way back to Obama. Whenever he invaded Crimea, they wanted the Tomahawks, and Obama was afraid, oh, that might escalate a little bit. Where if he'd have sent the Tomahawks, that could have been another opportunity just to kick them right off of Crimea back onto Mother Russia. So
yeah, that's absolutely true.
Yeah. Okay. The old news that keeps emerging is Trump's tariff war against the world. And how did that work out in terms of America's status with international relationships? You mentioned that right at the beginning about, the biggest danger we have. How did the tariffs play into that danger that you guys earlier?
That was the first shot across the bow, I think, to everyone. And I spent 14 years in the State Department Foreign Service. So I lived overseas. My family and I lived overseas for 14 years, embassy to embassy. And while I was there, I traveled all over the world with the State Department, different places. So I still have contacts in a lot of those countries. And I can tell you that did an awful lot to destroy relationships, because that really put a wrench into the global economy, into established trade that we had for decades with a lot of these countries. It also severely hampered our intelligence sharing with other countries, because we have a lot of other intelligence sharing cooperation with a lot of other countries and agreements with a lot of other countries than people really know about. And whenever you do something to a country like some of the bigger countries like Poland and France and the UK and New Zealand and Australia, they can handle a little bit of abuse. But you're talking about some other smaller countries that are just barely newly become democracies. Their economy can't take that kind of abuse. So you really put them in a hard place. So that has killed a lot of and harmed a lot of our intelligence sharing relationships with these countries. So it's not just economic. I mean, everyone thinks about the economy right away. And yes, that did an enormous amount to really sever relationships with these countries. And in my opinion, it's going to take a very long time. It's going to take decades, possibly generations, to recover some of these relationships, because we can't be trusted.
When you say we can't be trusted, do you believe that if the American people do the right thing this November and in November 2028, that the Europeans will look at us and say, okay, well, you made a mistake, but things can get better now? Do you think that it's salvageable, that we can get back?
I think it's salvageable, yeah, but I don't. I think even if we do that, there's still going to be okay. Well, your system though, you allowed this to happen not once but twice,
Right.
and we're not. We can't trust that your system is robust enough to keep this from happening again. So it's going to take a couple different things happening. Number one, we're going to have to prove to them that, first of all, we got to get the midterms out of the way and get rid of these, take back Congress, take back the Senate, so that we can reel this guy in. And number two, we're going to have to show the world that we are capable of reforming our system to plug the leaks, to kill the loopholes, close the loopholes, and provide accountability for people in the future who try this.
And I hope you mean the court as well. SCOTUS,
Yes.
Supreme Court.
Yes.
That's
absolutely. Yes.
I mean, that allowed this whole thing. We have a crime family operating out of the Oval Office now, and they're the ones that allowed that to happen.
Right. Yeah,
Okay.
and we're already talking about, because I'm in a group with a bunch of other candidates all over the country, and we're already talking about we need a code of conduct, an enforceable code of conduct for the Supreme Court and all of our courts, actually. And in addition to that, we also need term limits for Supreme Court.
Has your group talked about impeachment of the? Here's what I'm saying. Let me explain my position here, and then I'll let you answer the question. Whenever Alito and Thomas did not recuse themselves from the Trump criminal immunity issue, and they stayed on, when their wives, especially Thomas's wife, was a paid worker for Trump's election deniability, and Alito's wife was waving that flag. The fact that the appearance of that didn't result in their recusal, in my mind, is an impeachable offense. And so I think AOC was the one who actually filed articles of impeachment against Thomas and Alito. And I think it was just what she cited was what I just cited. So when you talk to these other congressional candidates, is impeachment on the table?
Yes.
Cool. I like that. Okay, before we leave the tariffs, we talked about the lack of trust or the elimination of trust between the international community and the United States. What about domestically? Have you been hearing anything from the people of the 15th regarding how these tariffs have hurt them?
Oh, yeah, all the time. I was just at Ag Progress Days last week up here in State College, and farmers out there were complaining about the high prices for fertilizer, the low prices for their commodities, their markets being closed, the traditional markets being closed to them now.
Soybean farmers?
Exactly.
Yeah, a lot of soybeans, yeah.
We got a lot of people that converted to soybeans around here. You have the right to repair issue. You have the diesel, the high cost of diesel here, and I mean, farmers had a tough time to begin with, and this is a lot worse now. We had, just in Pennsylvania, we had a 48% increase over the past year in small farm bankruptcies. So you see a lot of them going under.
48%, did you say?
48% in the state of Pennsylvania. Nationwide, it's been 165% over the last year. So there's not a lot of happiness out there. The only people that are happy are the corporate farmers.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're the ones making money off of this. They're the ones buying up these farms. And there's also a venture capital company that's in the U.S. that's doing the same thing. And they've been scooping these bankrupt farms off the market. And guess who is one of the stockholders?
You'll have to tell me.
J.D. Vance.
Okay, I believe that, yeah. So is that actually occurring in the 15th there?
Yes.
It is? Okay, all right.
Yeah, there's that, and then you have, because we have a lot of water, well, more water than a lot of other states do. We have a lot of the venture capital companies are rolling in here trying to buy up the land and then sell it to AI data centers.
Eesh. That's spooky. Okay, we're going to talk about your opponent now. Thompson is a typical Republican, willing to enthusiastically rubber stamp everything that is concocted by Trump's brain. But beyond that, is there anything else about him and his record that voters should be aware of, informed about?
Yes.
Let us have it then.
His favorite thing is in his newsletters. He sends out his newsletters once a week, sometimes twice a week now that election season is coming upon us. And what he loves to do is he takes a picture of himself. He loves his photo ops. He'll get a picture with a group and say, hey, this week I had the pleasure of meeting with this group. And then after that, he'll say what this group does and all the good things that this group does. That's it. Now, you assume from reading that he supports these people or he did something to help them out. When in reality, 99% of the time, his decisions, his votes actually hurt them. He voted to cut a lot of their funding. And so it's misinformation, number one. It's dishonest, number two. You just don't do that. I mean, especially when it's something that is it's right there in your face, like Snap. Oh, well, we have this thing for Snap here now. Well, hold on. You are the one who cut Snap and forced 165,000 people in the district off of Snap. So and healthcare.
So he actually had a picture taken of people who were affiliated with Snap.
No, so he had. I'm just saying that he had workers. I believe it was workers who were with, for example, I'm trying to think, healthcare. Oh, here's a good one. Good example. With the healthcare workers up here at the hospital. A year ago, or a year and a half ago, the hospital up here, Mount Nittany Health, was complaining that they didn't have enough healthcare workers to staff the hospital adequately, and they were actually talking about shutting down certain departments. Well, last year they started putting up this huge new patient center, new patient building there, and so Thompson went out, and of course they're not, and not right now. Mount Nittany healthcare workers are in talks with Mount Nittany Healthcare, trying to get just a cost of living raise, just so you can reach the cost of inflation. And Mount Nittany Healthcare refuses to give it to them. And and instead of coming out in support of the people who are really getting hosed here, the workers that are getting low pay, and instead of supporting them, he actually went out and got his picture taken with the construction workers inside the tower unit, putting the building up, and bragged about that. When he also went ahead last year and he supported an ICE raid on 26 workers coming from Bellefonte to work here in the tower, most of whom were H-2B visa holders.
Mm-hmm.
They got deported out of the country, even though they were here legally. So this is what he does. He says, look at me. Look, I'm doing so many good things for you. I'm here at the hospital. I support the hospital. But in reality, he's lying, because he's not supporting the hospital. He's actually cutting the funds, and he's taking away their workers. So he's all of his everything that he puts in his newsletter is just totally disingenuous. It's complete misinformation.
Well, the Medicaid cuts, they designed it to really come in online after this election. So the people that aren't really completely suffering, well, a lot are anyway, because a lot of them got off Obamacare's platform, whatever that thing's called, exchanges. Yeah. They're really going to get killed after the election.
It's already happening. Up in Cameron County, for example. That's the poorest county in Pennsylvania. 7 out of the top 10 are in the 15th congressional district. 7 out of the 10 poorest counties, year in, year out. And Cameron County, their health insurance just went up this year, earlier this spring, I think the raise was over 130%. The poorest county in Pennsylvania raised, and the big beautiful bill cuts raised their health insurance over 130%, and people just had to make a choice at that time. They said, well,
a lot of them just dropped it.
Have to drop it, because they just can't afford the premiums.
Well, has there been any hospital closings?
Oh, yes. We've lost, seven hospitals across the northern tier. We have the largest maternity care desert in all of Pennsylvania. In most of the counties, yes, in most of the counties up there, you have to drive an hour to get to the nearest hospital. If you want to give birth, good luck. They're training EMS crews up there, and they don't have a lot of people there because, again, everyone's leaving. The population's older because there's nothing there for them to do. So they're training EMS crews to deliver babies. They've delivered more than, well, as of March, they delivered 6 babies already up in the Bradford area. And with a lot of these areas that they're up there farther north, closest hospital most of the time is in New York State.
Mm-hmm.
So you go to New York State, you're out of you're out of network. So you're going to pay even more. But that's the closest place you got to go.
You got to drive to Binghamton.
Yeah, Binghamton. Yeah. Some people at Buffalo. I mean, a lot of people up there don't even work in Pennsylvania. They work in. I talked to a lady. Gosh, I was in Erie last summer with the judges and talking about national security. And there was a lady that came up to me and said, "Yeah, I want to stay in touch and everything, but I got a new job because there are no jobs here." And she's going to Syracuse. She's working in Syracuse. She lives in Erie, working in Syracuse. I mean, for crying out loud, how bad can it be? And I left here 40 years ago to go to the Air Force and to get my education and to find a career because there were no opportunities here. It's even worse now. 40 years and nothing has happened here. And this guy here, he's asleep at the wheel.
Is there anything else that rubs you the wrong way about what he's done? That before I move on to the next question.
There's so much, but his discussion about Iran at Ag Progress Days, he was giving a speech out there last Wednesday, and I walked into that, and somebody asked him about the fertilizer prices in Iran or why he supported the Iran war, and it was all complete. I don't know whether to be more embarrassed for his lack of math skills or his lack of knowledge of history, because he said we've been at war with Iran for 42 years, and Iran started the war. Well, guess what, pal? Even if you go back to 79, to the hostage taking, that's 47 years ago. So your math skills really are not good. And then when you look at the history, actually it's farther than that. 1953, August 19th, 1953. Sure. Like I said, I was a senior Iran analyst. August 19th, 1953, British intelligence, U.S. intelligence went in, deposed the diplomatically elected Prime Minister, Mohammad Mossadegh.
They claimed
after that, the Shah put in place a general, and all the torture and the killings and everything else that went on between then and 1979 gave rise to the Islamic Revolution and the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, which is who they're fighting right now. So he's wrong on all fronts. He's wrong on his math skills, and he's wrong about history. He's wrong about who started it.
Sounds like he's taking Trump's talking points and just spitting them out.
Exactly. Nobody's fact checking him.
Okay, the big thing for me is like the line that you can't cross that American electorate did cross in 2024 was January 6th. What happened that day. So I want you to tell me what your feeling is about that day. You were retired, I think, from your. Oh, you weren't?
I was retired from the federal government, but I was working as a contractor at the
time. Okay, but you weren't no longer a federal employee at that time. Correct. You were living with your homestead, right? Is that?
Oh, at that time I was still working at the NSA.
Okay. So all right, you observed this.
Yeah.
So it struck you a certain way. Could you share with us how you felt that day and how you feel now about the way these guys have been treated? First they got pardoned, now they're trying to get money from this slush fund. Just tell us how you feel.
Yeah, I was working at NSA that day, so I saw it from the inside and from what was happening on TV. And
where were you located? Where was your were you in Maryland at the?
Yes.
Okay.
And sorry. So so I saw it from the inside as well. And I mean, it was treason. There's no question about it. It's 100%. It was treason, and it was disgraceful what happened. And then what Donald Trump did afterwards, and what's going on right now with Todd Blanche, with this whole slush fund thing. I mean, I don't think there are words to describe it. Disgraceful, it just isn't a strong enough word for it. It's unthinkable. It is absolutely unthinkable.
I think despicable comes close.
It does come close. It does.
But it's still not far enough. It's still not enough.
Yeah. This is absolutely unacceptable. totally unacceptable for our country to be doing this. And I don't understand the MAGA movement standing behind Trump now, because MAGA movement is we back the blue. Well, no, you don't, because you just backed the guys that were killing people and beating up people, and a lot of them were Capitol Police officers, were attacking police officers. You support them? Well, then you don't back the blue. You also don't back the United States of America. You don't back the Constitution.
How do you explain the fact that 4 years after that, more people voted for him to become president again than for Kamala Harris?
Oh,
See, that puts me against the wall. I'm like, I can't deal with the mindset of the voter that voted for him the second time after January 6th.
yeah, I understand that completely. I feel the same way. It's frightening, and I talk with a lot of my veteran friends, and we are shocked even more that a lot of our comrades, a lot of our colleagues in intelligence, a lot of our colleagues from combat veterans are on the other side of the fence still, and we can't. That if you think it's hard to wrap your head around just people voting for Trump, how about that special demographic voting for Trump? I sincerely cannot grasp that. I really can't, because veterans, as you know, they have a very interesting and very strong bond, and especially combat veterans. We share, typically, we share a love of our country that most people just can't understand. And the values, not only our country, but the values that our country is founded on. We're very strong with those. And I simply cannot fathom the type of person who can turn their back on that and just say, yeah, these didn't mean anything. I raised my right hand and I said I swore to uphold the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And now I don't believe that. I really can't understand it.
Do you have any communications or talks with old friends?
Yeah, all the time.
That's what you tell them, and how do they respond? They just...
Oh, with those guys, I mean, I don't talk to them anymore because I simply can't.
Same here with me.
They're so far off the rails that I can't even try to reason with them. And the funny thing is, and here's the funny part. Here's the really hypocritical part about this. These guys are so pro ICE. They're really on top of me, really bugging me about me being out protesting ICE brutality. And they were so for ICE and deportations. We need to get all these immigrants out of the country. And you look at 99% of them, guess what? They have foreign spouses. Mm-hmm. Almost every single one of them. And you're looking at them going, dude, you want to deport your spouse?
Well, they were overseas.
Oh, no, not them, not me.
Yeah, right.
Well, guess what? That's exactly what you're saying. You're a hypocrite.
Yeah. Ain't it funny?
It is.
Okay, you gave a little bit of your background as we were going through these questions here in our discussion, but is there anything more that you want to share with our viewers about your background that qualifies you for this particular job that you're seeking?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in a small town, a blue-collar family. We didn't have a lot of money. No one in my family up until me had ever gone to college, let alone graduated. And that was my goal. I wanted to do that. And so I worked hard and worked full-time and went to school full-time in order to try to make that a reality. When my last year rolled out, my senior year, and I couldn't get the money to finish, I had no choice but to join the military. And I did. And at the time, that was a huge step for me, because at the time I hated the military. I thought, no, that's giving up all your freedom and everything else, and I don't want to do that. Well, it turned out to be the best decision I'd ever made, because I learned a lot. I got my education, and I also found that I had a lot of skills that I really didn't know that I had. And becoming an airborne intelligence professional, working in special operations, working in special forces with the Army, being a combat veteran in Desert Storm, Desert Shield, Bosnia, Kosovo, and a few other places that I went after the fact. All those things really helped me out. But my experience, I think, from coming from that background of having to, I am a blue collar worker. I learned how to do my own mechanic work. I was just playing around with my Oldsmobile Cutlass out here in the garage, tweaking the carburetor a little bit and things
What
like
year
that.
is your Cutlass?
72 convertible.
Ooh,
72 Cutlass Supreme
okay.
convertible. Yeah, it's having fun today. But I do my own mechanic work. I learned how to do my own body work. That's how we grew up. So I grew up in a blue collar background. I know what real Pennsylvania is. I know what real America is because I've lived it. And I've also gone on to educate myself, to get 2 degrees, to spend 10 years in the military, to serve in combat, to serve in peacetime, and also to work with NATO forces. I actually, when I joined the NSA, I was director of a NATO operation that operated out of Armed Forces Southern Europe in Italy. And at the same time, I was deploying with Army Special Forces. And then I also handled the agency's response to Kosovo. So all of those things in a short 3-year period. Then I spent 14 years abroad with the State Department Foreign Service, living in 3 different countries. I spent 9 years in Turkey. We spent 3 years in Greece. We spent 2 years in Croatia. And in the meantime, I traveled all over the world, everywhere from Indonesia all the way back to Central America and to Okinawa. So I've got, not only do I have experience in all of those areas, but I have experience in foreign policy, in how it works, in domestic policy, because domestic policies shape foreign policies. I have a great deal of experience in dealing with foreign diplomats because that's what I did for 14 years. I have served on the President, Vice President, and Secretary of State's security details with the Secret Service and the FBI as they traveled over the world. I speak 7 languages. I have a lot of experience that I bring to the table, both right from a child up until now, that is in from what I can see among candidates and sitting Congress members alike, very unique. With that breadth of experience and that depth of experience, I believe that I am much more qualified candidate than Glenn Thompson and Dave McCormick combined.
And any Republican currently sitting in the Congress.
Entirely possible.
Yeah.
Entirely possible.
Why do you want this job?
I don't want this job. Actually, I really don't. It's the last thing I want to do, but it's something that I know that I have to do. It's the same thing that pushed me forward to join the military, to volunteer for combat, and to keep on volunteering for every single high importance project or endeavor that we had. It's the same thing. I can't sit by and do nothing. I have to get involved. I know there's a problem. I can't sit back and just complain about it. I've got to get involved in the system to try to help to fix it, to try to help make it better. That's what drives me. It's always been my ambition to be able to get involved, to help people, to try to make life better, not only for myself and my family, but for future generations. And that is why I'm doing this. I honestly don't want to do this. I would much rather be on vacation on a beach somewhere, but I know that I have to do this. There's far too much at stake.
It's funny that, you said all these things about, you feel obligated to do the service for the country, to do it for the people. But then you're going to end up going down to Congress and you're going to be talking with all these yo-yos and trying to work with them and just so frustrated. So that's going to be very difficult as far as keeping up your morale. But I don't think that there's a better guy who's suited to do that than the guy I just talked to for the past hour. So, Ray, I want to thank you so much. I really appreciate your coming on the corner and the fact that you are so honest about everything that you described makes me think, boy, we need guys like you in there bad. real bad. And I wish I could do more to help you, but we'll start with this.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Oh yeah, this one is 5,000.